I recently scored this 1998 Suzuki Wagon R. This is a Japanese JDM, Japanese domestic market car. It is a K car, which means it's allowed to have only up to a 660cc engine, as well as it's limited in its size and it's limited in its horsepower. So this one is more than 25 years old, so it just was imported here a couple months ago, and I've had it for about 1 month. I used to own a Suzuki Cappuccino, which was another Japanese K car, and it had the same engine as this vehicle, which is why I was familiar with doing the engine maintenance, the basic maintenance on it myself, and I'm familiar with how reliable these engines are and how fun they are to drive around in. So being as that this had the same engine, but it was just a different body shape, I said this is probably the next car for me. So this car is really unique. Perhaps you've maybe seen another video on these. There's not very many of these in the United States yet, because it's not a highly desirable Japanese car like a Skyline or a Supra or a Honda Beat or a Cappuccino. But I don't know, I thought this was just really unique looking. Kind of looks like a clown car. It's got its unique design, sporty and kind of JDM-ish. This one is more unique than most of the other Suzuki Wagon Rs, and the reason is because it's got a couple features that most of them didn't have. This one is a 5-speed manual, and it's a turbo. Again, it has a 658cc 3-cylinder engine. The 3-cylinder engine has a dual overhead cam, and it's also got 4 valves per cylinder, so it's pretty peppy. It feels very light when you're driving it, and it feels very reactive when you press on the fuel. And it runs in pretty high RPMs too, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. So as you can see, it's got a 3-door configuration, 1 door here on the driver's side and 2 doors on the passenger side, because of course it's right-hand drive. Again, this being the RS model, it has down here, it's got like a ground effects package along the bottom. It's also got a slightly different rear bumper than the other models have, and it's got the roof rack up here. It's got an authentic intake here for the turbo. That's an actual working air intake, and it's got fog lights here on the front. Let's go to the inside a bit. As you can see, it's a 5-speed. The first thing I did when I got it was I changed out the stereo, because in Japan the stereos use different frequencies for their like FM radio than we use. So Japanese stereos are almost useless here in America. It's got pretty clean interior. One of the things that I liked about it was the 2-tone cloth seats. Most inexpensive cars don't give you 2-tone. It's also got a ETC electronic toll card reader right there, which is useful in Japan, so you can zip past the toll booths and it'll just charge your card. They're useless here in the United States. However, when you turn the car on, when you start the engine, it gives you a nice little electronic Japanese greeting from a very polite woman. Underneath the driver's seat, we have a little drawer that pulls out. You can put your socks in there. It's a sock drawer. It's got cup holders, which my Cappuccino did not have, and they actually work pretty well because they're down low to the center of gravity, close to the floor, so your drink doesn't actually tip over. I'm going to show you the rear compartment here. It's very spacious back here. These seats fold all the way down flat to make it a cargo area. That way, if you have to go to your Home Depot or your Lowe's, you can go pick up your accessories. And for some reason, the seats also fold. They don't really fold, but they lean back really far. Not sure why they do that, but I guess if you want to go to sleep, you can go to sleep. And then over here on the passenger side, this car feels like it's very roomy because the ceiling is high, and it's, when you look back, the windows are large. It gives you really good visibility while driving, and it feels like you're in a large car because the ceiling's high and there's a lot of windows. It lets a lot of light in and the visibility is really good. Underneath the passenger seat here, we have a funny little shopping basket that pulls out so that you can go get your produce, I guess. You can put it back in here when you're done shopping. Very convenient. No other car has that I've ever seen. And then I went ahead and got an American style floating screen stereo for it. It's a Boss, and then I put in a custom cell phone holder there, which took a lot of time to modify to get it to fit on there. But it fits. I really like how it has this compartment here, because if you've got something that you need to store and you don't want it to roll around, it's great to put it in here. But then it also has an actual glove compartment down there, which is moderately spacious for your owner's manuals and your things that you're not going to use every minute that you get in the car. Again, it's a manual transmission. Let's take a quick look at the engine. This engine is even smaller in real life than it is on my video here. This is a tiny car. It's a tiny engine. It basically has a lawn tractor battery in there. It's definitely a car battery from Japan, but if you were going to replace it here, you could just go to Tractor Supply and get a lawn tractor battery. It's got the little 3-cylinder here. It's got a real air intake here, which I've kind of cleaned out a little bit to make sure it was taking in all the air it needs to take in. It's got, someone put an HKS air filter on there, and when you, it's because it's a turbo, when you let off the fuel, it makes a really nice little turbo flutter sound, which is quite comical. So yeah, there's not much engine here, but it's everything that you need to get around on 64 horsepower. Now this one doesn't actually have 64 horsepower, it's got a little bit more, because the last owner in Japan, or some owner in Japan, added a Suzuki Sport N1 ECU, an electronic control unit. And so they took out the stock ECU and put in the Suzuki Sport N1 along with some bigger fuel injectors. And it is located down here underneath the passenger's console. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a sticker on there that says it is not for street use, it's for competition use only, which is kind of comical. It's supposed to take this vehicle from 64 horsepower to 80 horsepower. I have no idea if that's true or not, but it is very peppy, and it feels like it has more than 60-something horsepower. So that's a brief overview. I've got some driving video as well. Happy to own this, and hope you enjoyed learning about it.